You've probably been scrolling through a sea of specs and wondering if any of them actually solve the problem you have on your desk. A computer that's small enough to hide behind a monitor, fast enough to juggle a dozen tabs, a few lightweight creative apps, and won't break the bank. You're not looking for a brag-worthy feature list, you just want something reliable, easy to live with, and worth the money. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. When I started looking at mini PCs, the first thing that tripped me up was the fear of ending up with a tiny box that can't keep up with everyday work or that gets so noisy it feels like a blender on the counter. I've tried a couple of older NUC models, a Raspberry Pi for simple tasks, and even an old laptop as a desktop replacement. Those experiences taught me a few hard lessons: a weak processor stalls when you open a spreadsheet while a video is streaming, a cramped port selection means you're constantly swapping cables, and a fan that screams at 30% load makes conference calls feel unprofessional. With those pain points in mind, I dug into the latest Asus NUC 13 Pro to see whether it finally nails the balance. The Asus NUC 13 Pro packs a 13th generation Intel Core i7-1360P, a 12-core chip that can boost up to 5 GHz. In real-world use, that translates into a desktop that can spin up a full-size Office suite, a couple of Chrome tabs, and a Photoshop session without the dreaded not responding message. I set it up on my home office desk, connected two 4K monitors via the HDMI 2.1 ports, and added a third display through a Thunderbolt 4 dock. The experience was smooth enough that I could drag a 4K video from the SSD to a YouTube upload window while a Teams call stayed crystal clear on the third screen. One of the first things I noticed was the sheer number of ports. Two HDMI 2.1 connections give you native 4K at 120Hz if you ever want to game on a console or watch high frame rate media, while the dual Thunderbolt 4 slots let you daisy-chain an external SSD or a USB-C monitor without needing extra adapters. The three USB-A 3.1/3.2 Gen 2 ports are perfect for plugging in a mechanical keyboard, a mouse, and a webcam all at once, and there's even a legacy USB 2.0 for that old scanner you can't part with. In practice, that means I never have to reach for a hub or keep swapping cables between work and personal use. Thermals are a frequent complaint with compact builds, and the NUC 13 does a respectable job. The fan stays whisper quiet during light browsing and word processing. I could barely hear it over the hum of my air conditioner. When I pushed the CPU with a quick render in Adobe Premiere, using only the integrated Iris-Say graphics, the fan ticked up a notch but remained far below the level that would drown out a Zoom call. The chassis itself is a sleek, brushed aluminum slab that blends nicely with a modern desk, and it measures just over 5 inches wide, so it literally slides under a monitor stand if you need to reclaim space. Now, let's talk about what this machine can't do, because that's often where buyers get burned. The integrated Iris-Say graphics are a solid step up from older Intel chips, handling everyday video playback and light photo editing with ease, but they're not built for modern AAA gaming or GPU-intensive 3D work. If you plan to run Blender Cycles renders or play Cyberpunk at high settings, you'll feel the limits quickly. Similarly, while the NUC ships with 32 GB of DDR4 3200 RAM and a 1 TB PCIe NVMe SSD, the memory is user upgradable only if you're comfortable opening the case and inserting a second DIMM. The SSD slot is also a single M.2 slot, so you can't add a second drive without swapping the existing one. For most home office or light creative workflows that's fine, but power users who need multiple high-capacity drives should look at a small tower instead. Another practical point is the lack of an optical drive. If you still archive media on DVDs or need to install software from a disk, you'll have to buy an external USB DVD writer, which adds a small cost and an extra device on your desk. It's a minor inconvenience for many, but it's worth noting if you're in that niche. Who should consider the Asus NUC 13 Pro? If you run a home office, a freelance design studio, or a small business where desk real estate is at a premium, this little box checks almost every box. It's perfect for developers who need multiple virtual machines, content creators who edit 1080p video or 4K photos, and anyone who wants a clean, cable light setup with enough power to stay productive all day. The built-in Wi-Fi 6E and Bluetooth 5.3 also mean you can connect to the newest routers and peripherals without a dongle, which is a nice future-proofing touch. Who should skip it? If you're a hardcore gamer, a professional VFX artist,